Welcome to the Debrief. I'm Diane Macedo. Top stories this morning. We're going to be taking a look at the latest in the California wildfires and a unique problem emergency responders are dealing with there. We're also taking a look at a shooting in Chicago, and finally that holiday travel rush, as well as holiday shopping and some scams you need to look out for. But first, here are your headlines.
The stock market is taking a beating today. The Dow has been down around 540 points this morning, a day after it shed nearly 400 points.
An actress in LA has filed for a restraining order against Michael Avenatti, the lawyer for Stormy Daniels. This comes days after he was accused of domestic violence. Avenatti has denied any wrongdoing.
North and South Korea military demolished guard posts at the DMZ border. Moon Jae-in and Kim Jong-un agreed to dismantle 10 posts respectively during their Pyongyang summit in September. The two sides will finish demolition by the end of the month.
Prosecutors in Japan today are considering whether to file formal charges against ousted Nissan chairman Carlos Ghosn.
Nearly 100,000 pounds of raw ground beef are being recalled. Federal Agriculture Department inspectors say they went to the Swift Beef Company last week to investigate a sample that tested positive for E. coli. The ground beef was shipped to California, Nevada, Oregon, Utah, and Washington. Some are labeled blue ribbon beef.
We begin with that shooting out in Chicago. 4 people are dead, including the suspect and a police officer, after what apparently started as an argument between a man and woman. ABC's Alex Perez is on the scene at Mercy Hospital. Alex, what do we know so far?
Hey, Diane, we are learning a whole lot more about how that chaos unfolded here just less than 24 hours ago. Take a look behind me. That is Mercy Hospital. Things look relatively calm here right now, but as I said 24 hours ago, it was a completely different scene here. Authorities now telling us Dr. Tamara O'Neill was leaving her shift here at the hospital, walking out when she was confronted by her ex-fiancé, a man who has been identified as Juan Lopez. Authorities say her ex-fiancé was armed with a gun. They say he shot and killed her and then entered the hospital where he unleashed mayhem, randomly shooting, killing a pharmacy technician, Dana Less, inside the hospital. Of course, a number of Chicago police officers started arriving here on the scene. One of them was 28-year-old Chicago police officer Samuel Jimenez. He entered the lobby here where the shooter was, and authorities say they exchanged gunfire. Officer Jimenez was killed. The gunman is also dead. Now, authorities say the officer who was killed had only been on the force for about 2 years, had actually just finished his probationary period with the force in August, so had only been a fully fledged officer for a few months here. Of course, this devastating scene, this entire community here really shaken up. This hospital, the doctors here, the nurses were placed on lockdown when all this was going on, and shortly thereafter, once things were under control, you can see those doctors and those nurses were escorted out of the hospital with their hands up. A terrifying scene for everyone here, Diane.
I bet, and kind of ironic timing for the hospital too, Alex. I understand they had just started learning how to prepare for an active shooter situation.
Yeah, actually, just less than a month ago, this hospital had trained for an active shooter situation, doing a number of exercises to prepare them for something like this. Of course, they hoped they would never have to use that training. Unfortunately, it came much sooner than anyone expected, than anyone ever wanted. That police officer, Officer Jimenez, he was married. He leaves behind 3 young children. Diane?
Yeah, so much tragedy there, right? Alex Perez from Chicago. Alex, thank you. And now let's go over to the West Coast, where California is still dealing with those wildfires, and now a unique problem that's coming with them. People wanting to help. Carlos Herrera is at an evacuation center in Butte County. And Carlos, normally you think of volunteers and donations as something that can only be a good thing. So what's the problem?
The problem is the misunderstanding of the process, of the donation process, of the volunteer process. Now, the Butte County officials want to remind everyone that they are really thankful. They appreciate the community coming together. In fact, it's that togetherness that allows them to donate these items that are so needed at these shelters. And it's the willingness of the volunteers to donate their time that is very helpful. But it's the process that they want to skip that makes things more difficult. It actually slows things down. Now, to help solve this problem, Caring Choices, which is the organization that processes volunteers, is encouraging people to simply avoid showing up at an evacuation center or any animal shelter unless they have gone through the volunteer process, and those without a completed assignment form will be turned away. Now, right now, the organization is only accepting volunteer applications from state employees and licensed medical personnel, and that's because they're already busy. They're backed up processing more than 4,000 applications at this time, and in fact, those 4,000 applicants are still waiting to hear back from this organization. They hope to do so after the Thanksgiving weekend. Now, there's also another problem that is just resurfacing this morning. It's the just too many donations being brought to donation sites, and they want to remind folks that physical donations cannot be dropped off at any evacuation center or at any animal center. In fact, they're encouraging people not to do so at all. What they do need are monetary donations and gift cards, and those can be dropped off in person or at the on our website, caringchoices.org. And again, county officials say there is such thing as too much help, believe it or not. What they do need, again, very important, monetary donations and gift cards.
All right, so bring the cash, bring the gift cards. Don't just show up and say we want help, and don't just show up with 20 cases of water, let's say, because they might not have somewhere to put that. Is that right, Carlos? And then I know, Carlos, that much needed rain is on the way. What are people doing to prepare for that? Because that could actually pose a problem, particularly for those people living in tents that you were showing us.
Yeah, definitely. In fact, what is happening now is that there are many people camping out at the Walmart in Chico. That's been the unofficial campsite for evacuees. They're being told to move into indoor shelters. There are 2 in the area that are still taking in evacuees. Here, in fact, at the Butte County Fairgrounds, as you can see behind me, in that area, officials are actually preparing sandbags to distribute to folks who haven't lost their homes, to prepare for any mudslides that will be coming, will be happening actually later tomorrow morning, and definitely Friday afternoon as well. So that's what's happening here in Butte County right now. Just people getting prepared for what's in store later this week.
All right, Carlos Herrera from KXTV. We appreciate it, Carlos. Thank you. And today the president is facing a new hurdle after a federal judge ruled against the administration, barring the administration from refusing to process asylum requests from people who crossed the border illegally. Karen Travers is at the White House with the latest on that. Karen, what does this ruling mean going forward?
Well, this now means that this decision, this move by the president, a proclamation, is now put on hold for at least a month, barring an appeal. And the government, Diane, is certainly indicating that they're going to continue to fight this in court. A statement from the Department of Homeland Security and the Justice Department said that the asylum system is broken, and they look to continue defending the administration's ability to do this. So the backstory here is that a couple weeks ago, the president signed a proclamation saying that migrants seeking political asylum could only do so at official points of entry. U.S. law is very clear that if you get into this country, no matter where it is, you are able to apply for political asylum. Well, as soon as the president signed this, the groups like the ACLU very quickly filed lawsuits saying that the law is clear and the president does not have the authority to do this. The president, Diane, says he can do this and needs to because of the migrant caravans that are making their way to the U.S. southern border. Last night, that judge in San Francisco, though, agreeing with the ACLU and other groups, saying the president cannot do this under law.
All right. And Karen, I know Ivanka Trump is also making headlines today after the Washington Post reported that she used her private email account to send a number of emails in 2017. What do we know so far about this, and what's the administration saying?
Critics are pouncing on this. No surprise, Diane. This was a critical part of President Trump's campaign message in 2016, that you cannot do official government business on private email, of course, referring to Hillary Clinton. Well, the Washington Post broke the story last night, saying that Ivanka Trump, for much of 2017, was doing just that, conducting government business on a private email account. Diane, her lawyers say that she was not transmitting classified information, she didn't set up a private server, and she did not delete any emails. Trying to draw a distinction here, of course, between what the president slammed Hillary Clinton for when they were against each other in that 2016 campaign. But the difference here, Diane, it's interesting. If this had come out 2 months ago, just a couple of weeks ago, it might be a big headline, a big story, and then that would be it. But now, of course, the Democrats are taking over in the House coming in January, and this could certainly be something that they could move forward on and investigate. A very different ballgame here in Washington now for the Trump administration in the new year. All right,
Karen Travers at the White House. Thanks, Karen. And now to that ABC News exclusive with the family of an American woman who mysteriously died on a cruise ship. She was reportedly seen struggling with a man just moments before falling to her death. Victor Kendo is in Miami now after speaking with her children. Victor, what are they saying about this?
Diane, it was definitely emotional. It's now been a week since Omarosa Tenorio fell to her death aboard that Princess cruise ship in the Caribbean. Her children, they say that they want justice and the truth. We heard from her son and daughter. They say that she was an avid cruiser, but she was hesitant about this trip. Family telling us the 52-year-old woman was a loving mother and grandmother, a volunteer teacher's aide. According to her children, their parents were working on their relationship and they felt like this week-long cruise would help. But apparently, Omarosa was very nervous.
My mom did not want to go on this cruise. She did not. Blank point, she did not want to go. She knew something was going to happen.
The night before they left, my mom hugged me for like a good 5 minutes, and I was kind of curious about why it was so long. And then I asked her, and she said, well, it might be your last hug you get from me.
The FBI and Aruban police say there are no new suspects in their investigation into how she plummeted 14 stories onto a lifeboat. According to local reports, witnesses say that she was seen struggling with an unidentified man. The 52-year-old was traveling with her husband, Leo Tenorio, at the time. Aruban officials tell us that he was questioned, but as a witness and is not considered a suspect. In a statement to ABC News, Leo said he hopes to treat the memory of her with respect, adding that her death will haunt him forever. Timothy Tenorio, the son, also telling us he believed his father always wanted the best for his mother, calling him a supportive husband. Both of her children, Diane, they just want answers.
Very eerie that she seemed to have some sort of foreshadowing of what was to come here. Victor, what's next for the investigation at this point?
Well, they've completed a forensic investigation. They've also completed an autopsy, but they have not released the results yet, just calling her death unnatural. So still so many questions unanswered here, Diane.
All right, Victor Kendo from Miami. Thanks, Victor. And now let's get some new details on that sentencing for the Colorado father who confessed to killing his pregnant wife and their 2 young daughters. He's now facing 5 life sentences. Kana Whitworth has the latest on that. Kana?
Hey, Diane. Yeah, I'm here in Denver right now. This is actually the next stop for Chris Watts. He will come here for an evaluation, and then he will ultimately likely be sent to a high security facility. There's no solitary confinement. It's actually against Colorado state law. And this all happening as Chris Watts will spend the rest of his life in prison. The judge handing down 5 life sentences in what was an unbelievably horrific day in the courtroom. Just under an hour of just gut-wrenching testimony. First, we heard from Shanann's family. We heard from her father, who spoke about his daughter and called Chris Watts a monster. Take a listen.
I trusted you to take care of them, not kill them. And then you take them out like trash. You disgust me. You don't know what love is. Because if you did, you would not have killed them. You monster.
After that, Chris Watts' parents spoke, and that's when he became emotional. You can see his leg was shaking. He actually started to cry, wiping away some tears. And when his parents spoke, they said that they think their son needs to atone for what he did. Take a listen.
I hate what has happened. Your father and sister and I are struggling to understand why. We love you. And we forgive you, son.
The district attorney really surprised everybody, revealing some pretty gruesome details about how those girls spent their final moments. We also learned about a key piece of evidence in this case. The sheets were missing from the couple's bed, and they found some of the sheets in the trash can, and then they actually found one of the sheets out by the crime scene in that oil field. Diane, we learned that little Bella was found in an oil-soaked pajama top, pink, with hearts and butterflies on it. Those details are so hard to hear. A terrible, terrible day. The judge in this case actually calling this the most vicious and inhumane crime that he has ever been a part of, and that only the maximum sentence here would do. And Diane, we know that he did not receive the death penalty because that is not what Shanann's family wanted. They didn't believe in it. Diane.
All right, interesting. Kana Whitworth for us from Denver, Colorado. Kana, we appreciate it. Thanks. And now it's time to check the weather forecast as many of us get ready to hit the roads for the holidays. Will the weather cooperate? Dan Peck is in the weather studio with the update for us. And Dan, it's sounding like it's going to be a cold Thanksgiving, at least in the Northeast.
Yeah, Diane, we're going to have a shockingly colder air mass moving in just in time for the Thanksgiving holiday. This is the coldest air of the season so far, something more so we deal with in December or January, but it's going to be here for Thanksgiving. Take a look at these bitterly cold wind chills. It's going to feel like the teens from D.C. up to Philadelphia, New York City feeling like the single digits as you're heading out to your Thanksgiving plans Thursday morning. And then wind chills below zero as we head throughout portions of upstate New York and New England. And then the afternoon temperatures, it doesn't get much better. It feels like it's the middle of winter. Highs staying below freezing from New York to Boston. And Diane, it could be the coldest Thanksgiving on record for Boston and the third coldest for New York.
All right. Well, so get your winter coats out for this Thanksgiving. I know California,
Definitely.
Dan's also going to get some much needed rain. Question is, will it be too much?
Yeah, it's definitely a good and bad thing. We're getting a big pattern change. It's going to bring more moisture and rainfall to the region, but we do have to also watch out for flash flooding and mudslides. Let's take a look at that pattern change here on the map. We do have the rain moving in on early Wednesday morning across the West Coast, and then it's going to continue as we head throughout the day, even some mountain snow. And then there's another system behind it. The wind flow is going to help knock out those the big smoke and the air quality issues, but we're going to keep an eye throughout the rest of the week for that potential flooding and that mudslide threat.
And Dan, anything that you're seeing just across the country in general that might affect holiday travel?
Well, Diane, as millions now head to the roads or take to the skies, it's a very busy travel day tomorrow. Most of the country is good, but let's take a look at some of the regional highlights here. We do have that incoming Arctic blast, some snow showers across portions of the Great Lakes. So don't be surprised, Buffalo down to Erie if you get a few heavy snow showers. Dry across the central U.S., some showers along the Gulf Coast. It looks like the unsettled part of the country throughout the next several days is going to be the West Coast.
All right. Dan Peck from the weather studio. Thanks, Dan. And something tells me neither rain nor sleet nor snow or any of that stuff would have stopped a bunch of people in Massachusetts from hitting up the first two legal pot stores to grace the state. They are the first recreational marijuana stores opening east of the Mississippi, and Eva Pilgrim is at one of those locations. Eva, what is the scene there like?
Oh, yeah, you are totally right. There is no amount of weather that was going to keep these people from waiting in line and getting to buy the first legal recreational marijuana in the state of Massachusetts, not to mention east of the Mississippi. As you said, there's actually a long line of people outside, and they have things like heated tents. There's a grilled cheese food truck out there. I've seen people walking off with like 4 grilled cheese sandwiches. That's not a lie. I saw that with my own eyes. And then they're actually parking people about a half mile from this store and then shuttling them over to try to help with the traffic. But there's already a traffic jam, people waiting to get to that parking lot. The line is incredibly long. This is just the line inside the store, and I'll show you. You can see all kinds of people here waiting to buy their recreational marijuana. And there are some rules in the state of Massachusetts if you want to buy here. First of all, you have to be 21 years old. That's according to Massachusetts state law in order to purchase recreational marijuana. The other thing is there is a limit on the amount that you can buy. So you can get an ounce. Now, an ounce of these are the flowers, right? This is an 1/8 that I'm holding here in my hand. So you could buy 8 of these. It's quite a bit. And they have all kinds of stuff here. They have, you can see these are the gummies. It's a 20-pack of cubes. And they're actually, when you look at the cubes themselves, they have a marking on them. It's like green kind of marijuana plant. So it makes it clear that it's not just a gummy that a child could eat. We'll walk over here. I'll show you some of the cases. These are the different flavors that you can get. But they also have all other kinds of things that you can get as well. There's a vape pen, granola bites. You can get a chocolate chip cookie. These coconut macaroons over here. Oil. There's sugar wax. And they have actually 2 counters here. They have a medical marijuana counter, which is the short line. You notice there's nobody in that line today. And then they have the recreational one. And this is the pricing list. It's everything from like $60 to $75. It's sort of where the prices fall on those things. So a long line. They're expecting to have a long line today. They are putting some limits at this store as far as the products that you can buy and how many of them that are lower than the state mandated limit. And you'll notice things in the store like information about the state regulations, reminders that you can't smoke and be high and drive, that you can't resale it, that while you may be able to legally buy recreational marijuana now, you shouldn't be publicly consuming it, so it's something you should do inside your home. Those types of reminders to the customers who come here, Diane.
All right, and we just got to look at that traffic jam, Eva. That is no joke. There are a lot of people trying to get to that store today, that is for sure. But, you know, it's interesting. I know it's not just people looking to get high. You've talked to all sorts of people on this line.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of people here, and they're not all, you know, typically what you would think of as recreational marijuana users. The very first gentleman who made the first purchase from this store this morning, I spoke to him. He's an Iraq War veteran who was injured in June of 2005, and he really, really struggled when he came home with PTSD and with pain, recovering at a spinal injury, and was on all kinds of anti-anxiety, antidepressants, pain medication. Apparently, he told me that he had tried to commit suicide at one point, and his wife came to him and said, "Hey, I think you should try marijuana and see how it helps." You know, she'd been doing some research and thought it might be an option for him. He's a dad with 2 little girls, said he was never the guy that ever thought he would do this, and now he is. He talked to us a little while ago.
Cannabis has been the only medication that has helped with my problems without severe side effects. Before I could take care of pain, but I'd kind of be out for the day. Now I can take care of pain and still function and still be a dad, still be a husband.
Yeah, and that's a lot of the stories that we're hearing from people here. It really is, if you look at this line, an interesting mixture of people. You know, some people who are here just for the fun of it, but others who really have found a purpose for the use in their life. And they have their stories that they all are sharing. Definitely an excitement, I will say. And I have had more messages from people about this story than I have in a long time, Diane.
Well, good to see it's working for them. And I'm betting it's working out really well for that grilled cheese truck that's parked outside, Eva. Foolproof business model.
The grilled cheese truck is busy.
Eva
The grilled
Pilgrim.
cheese truck is very, very busy.
Eva from Leicester, Massachusetts. Thanks, Eva. Meanwhile, millions will be hitting the road, not necessarily to go to the pot store, but to get, of course, to their holiday destinations. This is expected to be the busiest holiday travel rush in more than a decade, and Gio Benitez is giving us a first-hand look. Gio?
Hey there, Diane. We are on the road, I-95, and take a look at our road cam right now because we are already starting to see that heavier traffic. We're looking at 6 to 8 p.m. tonight as the worst times to be on the road here in the New York area. But there are other cities too. AAA giving us this list, telling us that the other worst cities for driving today include Boston, Seattle, Atlanta, Washington, D.C., and Detroit. And meanwhile, in San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Chicago, they'll have the heaviest traffic tomorrow, but you better be prepared to leave very early because the worst driving times there tomorrow, 1 to 4 p.m. As far as air travel, we've been talking about this, the record-breaking 25 million people expected to fly. Just expect delays because we're also looking at that weather in the Northeast, so expect those delays because when you have all those people going through the airports, you're gonna have some issues, no doubt about it. And hopefully your travel time is gonna be a lot faster than what we're seeing right now. Diane.
All right, Gio Benitez from the roads. Thanks, Gio. And holidays also come with holiday shopping, of course. Unfortunately, those also bring holiday scams. Rebecca Jarvis has a new warning for us. Rebecca?
Hey, Diane, that's right. Good to see you. At this point, you've probably been bombarded with emails and social media and TV commercials about all the great deals, trying to entice you to shop, to buy this holiday season. But a word of caution here, some of the apps and websites that are being advertised are trying to steal your personal information. Now, Risk IQ, which is a consumer site, has looked into a number of these companies, a number of these apps. They did a search where they put Black Friday into the search terms. They got back over 4,000 apps specifically for Black Friday, but 200 plus of those companies were fakes. They were frauds, and those frauds can, once you start to download them, automatically take your personal information. The other big problem over the holidays is counterfeits. You shop sites that you're not familiar with, that you don't trust, and oftentimes you can end up with something that isn't what you intended to purchase. The bottom line this holiday season is if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Shop with retailers and websites that you know and trust. And remember, even though the government is trying to crack down on counterfeits, you too have to be vigilant. Diane?
Good advice, Rebecca Jarvis, for us. Travel safely, shop safely. And that does it for us here at the Debrief. Remember, you can catch your headlines all day long, though, at abcnews.com or at your ABC News app. For ABC News Live, I'm Diane Macedo. Thanks for watching, everyone. Stay safe.